Welcome back to lesson 18 of business accounting, and in this lesson we will look at time-based systems, which is one of the systems of remuneration. Just a few notes on time-based systems. This is where your employees are paid per hour, so they will only get paid for the hours they worked. Then for any additional hours worked, they will get paid an additional fee. Then overtime is then seen as a premium because that is on top of the normal wages. And then we already looked at this one. It's an indirect labor cost, except if we can say it relates to a specific order or a job. Now, our first example, Fred is our employee. He has a normal week of 40 hours. And he worked for 45 hours this week. Overtime is paid at 1.5 times the normal wage, and the normal wage is $100 per hour. So let's start to take out or identify the important information. So first I would say the normal week is 40 hours and he worked for 45 hours. So now I can identify that he worked 5 hours in overtime because it is 45 less 40 hours. So he worked 5 hours in overtime. Then we will look at the overtime is paid at 1.5 times the normal wage, and the normal wage is $100 per hour. So let's make a note of the important information. I would start to say he worked 5 hours overtime. And then how much will he receive for this 5 hours? The normal wage is $100 per hour, and overtime is then at 1.5 times. So I will write there $100 times 1.5 equals then $150. So I'm saying he worked 5 hours overtime. Normal wage is $100. Overtime is then $150. All right. So how much will he get paid for this 5 hours? He will get paid in total then for this 5 hours $150 times 5, and that will give me $750. So this is what he will receive in overtime. All right. But how will we record this overtime? Now remember, when people are working overtime, we said there's a premium involved. Now, the premium is the amount or the percentage that is higher or on top of the normal rate. All right, so we have now in total a $750. This is what he received. All right, how much of this is related to a normal wage, and how much of this is now related to the premium? So the normal wage for 5 hours will be $500. How did I get that? I simply took $100 times 5. All right. And the premium will then be $50 per hour times 5, which is then $250. So this $250 now relates to an overtime premium. I will just write it down there, overtime premium, while this amount over there relates to my normal wages. So in this example, we only calculated the overtime premium, and I showed you then how to calculate the total overtime wage, and how then to divide it into the normal wage and the overtime premium. This example is very similar to the previous one. We have a 40 hours week. He worked 45 hours. Overtime is paid at 1.5 times. And then normal wage is $200. So we have all the applicable information. All right, but then there's some more specific information, and I'm telling you that this overtime relates to a specific job. In other words, what we said is that if it relates to a specific job or order, then you will classify this overtime as direct labor cost. If it was not for a specific job, then it will be classified as an indirect labor cost, or then also manufacturing overheads. So we will start with this exercise. I think it will be good if we can first calculate the number of hours worked in overtime. And I will say there's 5 hours overtime. All right, now can we calculate the total payment for this overtime? So I will say 5 hours times the normal wage times 1.5. So it will be 5 hours times $300. So the total overtime that I need to pay to Fred will be 1,500 Namibian dollars. So this is, in other words, what he will receive. But how do I account for this? First of all, I take my 1,500, my total amount, and now I divide it into my premium and my normal wage. So my normal wage, I know this is a direct labor cost. Direct labor cost. All right. And then I have my overtime premium. All right. Now, your overtime premium can be added to your direct labor cost, or it can be added to my indirect labor or my manufacturing overheads. In this scenario, it's a specific job, so that overtime premium will now be added to my direct labor. But let's still do this calculation. So I'm saying that of this 1,500, 1,000 now relates to my normal hours or to my normal fee or rate per hour, and then 500 relates to my overtime premium. Now at the end, how much will go to my direct labor account? A direct labor, DL, it will be the 1,000 plus the 500. So this will be 1,500. How much will go for indirect labor or manufacturing overheads? 0, because this job was performed, or the overtime was performed on a specific job or order. Again, very similar with the same information, except this time the overtime does not relate to a specific job. So we will do exactly the same. I will highlight the important information. There's my important information. I can quickly calculate my overtime hours. Overtime is then 5 hours. All right. And my fee or my rate for overtime is then 200 Namibian dollar times 1.5 equals then 300. All right. So in other words, I paid, Fred received 5 times 300 equals 1,500 in total for overtime. How will I account for this overtime? I will split it into my premium and my usual cost or my direct labor. All right. And I said 1,000 will go to direct labor and then 500 will go to my premium. We did this calculations, and in total it will give me the 1.5. And now I must say, this premium, will it now go to direct labor or indirect labor? So we are saying, since this premium now does not relate to a specific job, it will be seen as a indirect cost or a manufacturing overhead. So I will just write over here. So my direct labor is then $1,000, while my manufacturing overheads will be $500. So this is how we calculate the overtime premium. So you will calculate basically your overtime premium, whether it's relates to a specific job or not. You will do the same calculation, but then at the end you must only decide whether this premium will be added to your direct labor or then to an indirect labor. This is then all you need to know on time-based systems where overtime is applicable, and the next lesson will then look at the other remuneration systems.